All right, good day, everybody. Today we're going to be asking and talking about the primary elements of art, the building blocks. Ask yourself, in the visual culture, whether it's video, drawing, painting, cartoons, what are the primary elements that builds the visual field for you? And in the arts, the visual arts, it's line, shape, form, value, space, color, and texture. Making these things and bringing them together is how we create a picture, a piece of art, a screen for animation. It's also how we build websites and everything that we do in our visual culture. So today I'm going to introduce you to the elements of art and the principles of design. Um, the principal designs are how we bring those elements of art together to create a composition. So here we're going to go through really quickly. Uh, Before I go on, there's the announcement is that tomorrow at 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. we're going to be picking up our art kits. There is a little caveat. We don't have all the paints in yet. They're on back order. I don't know what happened there or how that occurred, but they are on back order, and we're going to do the best we can going forward. So tomorrow at 10 a.m. at door C in front of Morton High School. All right, so the assignment today is to review this presentation, the elements of art and the principles of design, and then use the elements of art to make small compositions of each of the principles of design. So there are 6 principles of design. There's balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, and unity. So you're going to try to use the elements of art, that's line, shape, color, and form, etc., to create these compositions. You're going to have 6 compositions that you're going to make. You may use a piece of paper and pencil, or in fact, you may use anything you want. You can use a tablet, an application like uh, IBIS Paint, or any other drawing application or painting application that you have, or you may paint it on a sheet of paper with, if you have acrylic or watercolor, or you may just draw it with a pencil or charcoal, whatever you may have. Okay, and then I want to make sure you upload those 6 drawings. And they may be all little drawings on a single sheet of paper. They don't have to be 6 separate sheets of paper. I want you to take a photo of them and then upload those to the classroom. Get in the habit of uploading pictures of your work to the classroom. All right, so the objectives today is to create a drawing of each one of the principles of design: balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, and unity. Using a paper or any drawing tools of your choice, or a drawing app, you can use those. And we're doing this because we want to apply those principles of design. So we're not just going to learn, we're going to try to start applying them in a very simple way going forward. So the first thing I want to introduce to you are the elements of art. I'm going to go through this really quick, simple video. Okay, so you will have noticed here they added one thing to it, to one of the principal designs. They added type. This is a company that makes their graphic designers, so they're going to add elements that are more primary to their discipline. So we're going to go over those again. So line. That is really one of the most basic. You start with a point and you drag it across space. That creates a line. Lines are one dimensional and can vary in width, direction, and length. Here's a really nice photo of one of Julie Metra's paintings where you can see how she uses line, all sorts of line to create this mesh of space. So lines can be straight, curved, dotted, or any multiple ways. Shape was the next thing. So you take that line and then you enclose it. So shapes are two-dimensional. That's height and width, and can be identified by enclosed lines. There are geometric shapes like triangles, rectangles, and organic shapes that are swirled and you can't describe the shape itself. Here's a photograph of Melanie Parks where she is using water to paint with, and it's creating these silhouette shapes, organic shapes on her canvas. Form takes that 2 dimensions and then breaks it out into a third dimension. So it adds height, width, and depth. It adds depth to the shape. There, again, just like shapes in form, there are geometric and there are organic forms. This is a photograph of Deborah Zlotsky's work, where you can see she's not creating just line, but now she's given form to each one of those linear elements. But they're still linear, but they're now forms. There's depth to each one of those lines. Value. Value is the lightness and darkness of the tones and the brightness or darkness of the colors. So you have dark tones transitioning or grade to light tones. Okay. And this is Diego's work where you can see if you were in my drawing class, we did a lot with value, going from light to dark. It's a great way to create form, the illusion of form, in creating a highlight, a midtone, a core shadow. Let's see, go right here. Here's the highlight, the midtones, the core shadow, then the reflective light, and then you have a cast shadow to create a form using value. All right. Next, we have space. Space is the actual or illusionary 3 dimensions of height, width, and depth of an object or area. It's mainly about the space around a 3-dimensional object. So you have what we call positive space, which would be the object, or negative space, and that would be the space around the object. There are many ways of creating illusions of depth when you're especially dealing with the 2-dimensional surface, and that has to do with size relationship, placement of the objects, in different parts of your surface, overlapping one thing in front of another can create this illusion of space. Value change, like we saw in the form. Then we have details where you're able to see more details that will come forward. Where you see less details or it's blurred, it will recede in space. And then there's atmospheric perspective. I use atmospheric perspective all the time, and that is using contrast. The elements that have greater contrast come forward, or let's say we're working on a white surface, the darkest elements that will come forward, the lighter elements will recede. And then there's linear perspective, which is what we've learned in 2D, if you were in 2D drawing or my drawing class, we dealt with 1-point and 2-point perspective. There's also a 3-point going up and down, but we don't really deal with that in this class. It ends up being much more too complicated. Next, we have color, also known as hue, and that is the name of the color. And what we're dealing here is reflective light. So color has everything to do with how light reflects off a surface. So what happens is a surface will absorb light and it will reflect light. It's the light that gets reflected that is the color identity that we see. So in this color system that we're dealing with in painting, unlike the screen, there are three primary colors. There's red, blue, and yellow. These three colors make up the whole spectrum of colors. They are the primary colors. Just like color is a primary element of art. Red, yellow, and blue are the primary colors in the color spectrum. All right, that's all you need there. Texture. Texture is the tactile or touch quality of the surface. Texture can be real or implied. So you can draw the sense of a texture. So you're thinking about how it feels to the touch. Is it smooth? Is it hard? Is it sharp? Or is it soft? These are the textures that you'll be dealing with. All right, so those are the elements of art to begin with. And now we're going to go to the principles of design. And what the principles of design are is how you use the elements of art, how you bring those together to create a composition. And there are many, or basically how you organize the elements of art. And you can organize them in terms of balance, contrast, emphasis, movement, pattern, and unity. For our purposes, these six are going to be the principles of design. You'll notice other groups and other disciplines will focus on different sets of principles based on what they need them to do. So again, I'm going to show you a short video. There will be a few other elements or principles of design that they're going to add to it, but this should be very helpful. Okay, so again, you saw in this video a few additional principles of designs that they added. That was alignment and proportion, something that we're not going to be dealing with here. If I was the one creating this list, I'd probably add proportion. I often emphasize that in my drawing class, in my painting class, the proportions of things. But for our purposes in this class, we're going to be dealing with balance as one of them. And that's the three different kinds of balance are the symmetry, asymmetrical, and radial. So symmetry is basically how your visual balance on your page is. The balance of the left side to the right side. Is it equal balance? So one way is that it's symmetrical, so they're identical on either side. And then there's asymmetrical balance. You might have something large or of one kind, a shape on one side, and a multiple or smaller that are elements balancing off what you have on the other side of the page. And that will be asymmetrical. And then there's the radial balance, that is drawing or an image around a circle that creates a balance. Circles are often seen as a whole, as a balance. And then contrast. Use of differences in forms or types of elements. So it's to create difference, and variety has to deal with contrast. So you can have contrast in shape or contrast in color. You can have contrast in scale, and that's proportion. That's often that I do. Or contrast in layout, how you've laid things out one side or another. All right. Then there is emphasis. Emphasis gives certain elements in the composition more importance. Emphasis often sets things up as a hierarchy. So you create a headline if you're in graphics, and then you have the body text below it. So emphasis is something you might use contrast to create a focal point. Something that changes from the norm will create an emphasis. Setting up a pattern. Movement. I couldn't find a good example. I didn't have a time to draw one. Movement directs the viewer's eye from one point or one part of a composition to another. So it's how you move through an image. So as an artist, one of the things that we are doing is that we are controlling the eyes of the viewer, our audience. We're directing their eye, and we're creating emphasis to start somewhere and then move them. So it's kind of like what Paul Klee said, taking a line for a walk. So you're bringing your viewer, your audience, through an element, through your picture. You're taking them from one place to another, and you're creating movement as you do that. Next is pattern, repetition, and variations of the elements in a composition. Mm-hmm. So pattern is, again, just the repetition and variations and continuing with those. Unity, the wholeness of the elements within the composition. So it's creating this unified whole. So unity equals, it can be the same color. A variety in this case would be different sizes. So in the image on the left-hand side, you have a unity of color, but a variety of sizes. In the next image on the right, you have a unity of the same size, but now you have a variety of color. A great example of unity are mandalas, because they are often in circular form. And they have these balancing out of color and shape on a continual basis. So those are the elements of art and the principles of design. Again, today I'm going to have you just focusing on the principles of design. You're going to make 6 drawings. You can sketch out 6 different squares on your piece of paper, or you can do 6 different pieces of paper. Do a drawing that represents each one of the principles of principles of design. So that is, we want you to make a drawing about balance, a drawing about contrast, a drawing about that shows emphasis, and a drawing that shows movement and pattern and unity. and then take a photo of those and upload those to the classroom. We will. I wish I would be here on Friday to review those, but you have I believe you'll have until next week to get this done. So with that, have yourselves a good day. Enjoy yourselves, and I'll see you back in the classroom soon. Take care.